All right, guys, basically, we're here with Yosh Gajar. I at least want to know about you, bro, because we literally just met, right? You've done like 100K in commissions. You're right now, I think you guys got to like 300K a month with your consulting now with Andres and also Austin, two pretty big guys in the space as well.
Three times that.
And then you worked at,
Almost there.
right, okay, awesome. And you worked with Jeremy Miner as well, head of like VP of sales there.
Yep.
Heard a lot of good stuff about you from Andres that we did another podcast before with. But give me like a small intro about yourself and like the kind of like proof stuff that you have.
I think you summed it well. So I started as a sales guy. I made about $1 million in commissions. Then I became the VP of Rev at 7. So I managed the overall operations of that, which was 100% team, blah, blah, blah. We left, and then 90 days in the impact team, we're at an 8-figure run rate, which is really cool. And so that's what we worked on.
Awesome, bro. So today then, do you mind if you break down we're going to get a quick backstory of you. I mean, you don't even know me, so I'll give you a quick backstory of myself as well. And then give us a quick rundown today as well of like how you went from where you were to then getting to that business,
Whatever
right? To that
want.
8-figure run rate. Okay, awesome. And then also just overall sales advice. There's like some questions that we have from closers and also like sales managers that essentially want a gist as well on like your advice around sales management, being a closer, being a fantastic closer as well yourself too, as well as just, different advice on things. And overall, say like your take on the info coaching market too. I would love for you to talk about that today. So let's get to it, bro. Cool. So give me like a quick one sentence on your background and then I'll kind of tell you about myself afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, so in a nutshell, started off as a sales guy, turned into a revenue guy. And then from there, I sort of got obsessed with the concept of rev and just revenue department. So like a mini CRO. That's the best way I can describe it.
Interesting. When did you get into sales? Like, did you start as a closer first with business?
Yeah, so I started in sales at 14, 13. So that was back
13?
Yeah, that was, I think, back when info started popping off. That was back when Brunson, like it went from just Robbins to like now everybody knows Brunson. That's when he started the 30-day away challenge. That's also when COVID started. So I started in sales then, and I was making about $3-5 grand a month, right? And then I worked myself through the ranks. So I had a lot of good experience of working for a lot.
So when you were 13, what year was it? Like what year, what month?
If I'm 20 now and it's 2025, 13 was 7 years ago.
Oh, nice. So I'm 20 as well.
Yeah.
Let's go. What are you, 21?
What? February. I got a bit of time.
Nice. Hell yeah.
I started working for different accounts. So I probably worked for a good 24 like high ticket coaching companies until I went into 7. And I worked as a closer. So I used to usually work as a closer. I was managing the team. I had like 1 or 2 setters underneath me. So a lot of those accounts were anywhere from 150 to 700 grand a month, rev, give or take, monthly turnover. And then we had to kind of go in and scale them up. So there's a lot of good experience of learning marketing, and then you had to learn sales, then you had to learn management. Like there was that on a daily basis to maximize those offers.
Right. Yeah, I heard that from Andres. It's basically like the revenue team, and you're going to like different areas of the company and like looking to scale those departments
up. It's fucking shit up, much just making money. Yeah.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah, for me, it was I think like all of us, maybe like even when you were a kid too, for me, it was like 14 years old. I tried like sneaker reselling, drop shipping, NFTs, like all these different things. And then I got into the info marketing space through a content agency I started. I had like a video blow up on my YouTube channel. It was called like I Tried SMA for 30 days. That one's now like 45,000 views. Right. And then that one did really well. That met me, or I got to meet like a lot of agency owners. A lot of them were like in the info space. That's actually how I met Andres too. He saw that video. Yeah, that was like 3 years ago. No, 2 years ago, right? And then from there, I met like a few people doing info, met like a big guy who, ran like 4 or 5 different middle month offers. I learned a lot from him. And then I got into operating myself. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so then you were doing this rev ops stuff. Interesting. Tell me like, how did you even get into closing? Just like jumping really quick back.
I was just really good at it. Like sales was always my thing. Like I feel like most people that get into info, it's either I'm really good at.
When you're like a baby, you're like 6 years old, already starting to sell.
Always good at sales. So I was good at communicating. So primarily I'm an introvert. So at like events and stuff, you won't see me talk to people. But I can. That's crazy. I can get into the mode if I need to, right? But then I also know when I'm not in that mode. Sales was the easiest way to make the most money and be the best. And for somebody like me, that was perfect.
When you were a kid, though, like, did you have any? Because you don't just start immediately in sales, right? Like for me, I was a good communicator too. I think like I saw that through, being funny, like having friends that I could talk to and doing shit like that. And then I put that into yard sale reselling. That was like where my skill sets were. I would go to like back to back a bunch of yard sales, and then like sell a lot of shit. Not sell a lot of shit, buy shit, which then I'll flip on eBay. But like for you, where was that experience where you first started seeing like positive reinforcement about like being a good communicator?
I think it was when I started selling fitness. So the first thing I ever sold was fitness, and I was selling like $50 to $200 a week memberships to like single moms or like moms in Australia. And when I started doing well at that, I was like,
right to info. This
yeah,
is
like
crazy.
I went. So my pitch to people back in the day was, every lead I don't close, I'll pay for. So it's worth giving me a shot. That was my pitch. So I'm a big believer in like.
How did you get into the info space? This is really uncommon, by the way. I've never met.
I just contacted people.
How were you aware of info?
Like everybody was into it. It was like, you can sell your information and it's not regulated. You can illegally do it at the age of 13. Fuck it. It's better than anything. You know what I mean? Like, let's run it. And that was back during the COVID era. So I would do sales calls all day, and I'd be at school on my phone, and the phone would be aside, and then I'd be taking calls on my computer. And so I wanted a job. And so I was like, I will pay for any lead I don't close. Test me.
Respect.
And at that point, it's like, you can't say no to that. And so I'm under the impression that put yourself in the worst situation possible, because if you're in a position where you have to succeed, you'll find it. I don't know how you'll do it, but you'll always find it.
That's so weird. Bro, I've never met someone who like started right with info sales. That's kind of dope.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you remember life before high ticket or no?
I used to do stage closing back in the day. So I used to be in the back of the room collecting cash from people. So my initial call it mark was learning under people in stage closing. So those are like more OGs of sales, I'd say.
How did you get into that? Like 13 years old?
Well, then, because they needed people to go sell in the back, right? When people used to. So this is back in like, I think my favorite era, if you will, of like closing, which is like, run to the back of the room, you have an hour. And like, imagine the whole crowd is rushing. That's back in that era, right? So I used to be in the back of the room, and they just needed helpers, so I would do it. But then helpers also had to address objections. And that's what got my initial instinct. I went to one event, the guy made like $1 million in a day. And I remember like counting everybody. I was like, that's 15, 30K, 45K. Like, I was doing the math in my head. And that's what kind of got me hooked into sales and just like the concept of business. That was like the most exciting thing.
That is so interesting. Dude, okay. I just want to know more, because like maybe people want like the business tactics of like right now, but that's such an interesting story. Like, what was it back then, you would say? Wait, like, I don't understand. Like, what was the first even experience that got you into the fitness role? Like, how did you even know about it? Obviously, you're saying like everybody knew about it, but like I didn't honestly know about info until like I met people that are in it. And at 13, you're like meeting people in it. You know what I mean?
I just went up to the guy, hey, can I just go in the back and kind of sell for you? And he was impressed with my age and how I communicated. And he was like, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Then how did you get to go in that room? Were you like a purchaser of info? Were you like a consumer?
My mom went, so I was able to just come with her.
Oh, okay. That's the hit. So you were there. Okay, that just made sense. So you were there. Your mom was there. She wanted fitness coaching, and then you went to the back. You're like, shit, these people are making a lot of money.
Fitness coaching. This was for business. This is what got me into it. And then for the fitness gig, that was online. I just DM'd people for a job.
So basically, after that first experience of you closing or you seeing that much money being made from the stage, then you're like, oh shit, this is...
There's a drop.
Oh, that makes so much sense. And then now you're like DMing people, got into fitness.
That man who did that got everything. All the significance, all the credit, all the info. Like,
right. And you're like, dude, I know that this can make a shitload of money if I just close for these people.
That was it.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. So then let's just like fast forward really fast. Actually, no, let's talk about the sales experience first in between, and then talk about your business later. So, okay. Through that experience of closing now for like how many years were you closing until you...
Consistently. 5
to 6 years. God damn, bro. That's crazy. What would you say? So like, this is a question from James over here. He asks, what's the best daily workflow for closers to efficiently close?
Just talk to people. I think like this is one thing I always tell people I can be underwhelming at times. And part of the reason I say that is because, bro, you just got to work. Like, the best way to get better at sales ultimately is talk to more people than anybody else talks to people. So like, I spoke to people for, on average, 12 hours a day, right? I did 15 hours worth of sales calls a day, but I spoke to people for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 years in a row. I did 25,000 sales calls a year. Or I did 25,000 sales calls over the course of 5 years. And so I out-volumed everybody, which meant I was able to outskill everybody in the process. And I think what those people fuck up on is they have to have a big reason to get good. I didn't need a big reason to get good. I just had to get good because it was the right thing to do. And so for me, it's like the best routine is just talk to people. Your ultimate KPI as a sales guy is not how many sales you make. That's the result. The KPI for you is how many hours a day do you talk to somebody. The KPI for a marketer is how many ads are you testing. That's your KPI.
True. Exactly. Yeah, I've seen this framework where it's like first focus on like sales calls, highest activity, then it's triage, then it's DM set, then it's like that sort of hierarchy. Do you go by anything like that, or just like not just talk to people?
I think that's common sense, right? I got to focus on sales calls if they're in the diary, but then right after that, if somebody no shows, what's my next call? How many outbounds am I making? Am I asking people for referrals? I got good at business because I had to be a good sales guy. So like, I'll give you the premise of this, right? And I want people to understand the impact of this because this makes sense, right? So, I'm, let's say, top sales guy, at my previous company, the owner, our CEO and our founder ended up parting ways, right? So we have no CEO right now. And expenses are high. This business does 40 million a year turnover. We're trying to find a way to hit KPI. We might,
So you're talking about Jerry Miner's one, the seventh level.
You said that, I didn't, allegedly. But we have different situations, right, where we're trying to figure out how do we hit revenue. The power of being a good sales guy is you have all the leverage. Forget about the significance or the fact that all the eyes are on you, but you understand the business the best. And so for me, there's no CEO. And so it's like, we have to make sales to keep this company afloat. We have, X amount in payroll, which is well over 7 figures. How are we going to survive? When you know how to sell and you understand basic marketing, which you learn when you're good at sales, you can figure anything out. And so for me, when I stepped up as like VP of revenue in my previous company, which was just a title, I was running the whole company practically. I wasn't running it the greatest in terms of from a tax or HR perspective, right? Because I didn't know that shit, but I knew how to make money. I knew how to make sales because I understood the business. So when you have a lot of volume underneath you as a sales guy, you start connecting the dots. You start figuring it out. Your commissions are a direct result of how skilled you are. Your ability to react to different situations, different revenue gaps, which again, I did that for 3 years before I went to my previous company. For 3 years, I was on 20 different high ticket offers. This is what stupid people do. This is what smart people do. This is what dumbasses do. This is what really intelligent people do. It's very simple, right? But once I figured that out, then you sort of figured it out. And so I remember January when I managed my previous company, we had a record month at over 3.8 million at a higher net profit margin than we've ever had because I understood what made money. So when you're good at sales, it helps you in every aspect.
I see your point. So basically, this kind of transitions to the next question. Basically, what you're saying there was like, okay, I learned sales. That in turn teaches you marketing because you're like speaking, especially when you're push selling to people that are like weaker leads or that are like colder, right? So you're kind of like marketing live. And then that brought you up into the business role. You're able to get the experience of the revenue ops through the prior company that you worked at. And then after it's the point, basically you're saying is that I guess there's growth through that journey when you're able to transition from there.
If you want to make a lot of money or you want to have a big business or you want to make a big impact, whatever the goal might be for you, you can't be the jack of one spades. Every marketer's biggest excuse of why they suck at marketing or why they're good at marketing is, well, my cost per acquisition is really low. Every sales guy's excuse is, oh, the leads are just shit. When you start understanding a business, which the best way to do that is through being a sales guy, hands down. If I can understand a business from a sales standpoint and I understand basic marketing, now I can understand revenue and how it works, what's good, what's not. Then you put in accounting, which I got an accounting degree officially about a year ago. But when I started understanding accounting and taxes and net margin, you start learning all that shit. And it's like, okay, now I know sales, I know marketing, and now I understand basic accounting. So Tony Robbins has a quote, which I think is really true, which is the more value you add to the marketplace, the more money you make. And I think a lot of people are entitled, where it's like, I should make that amount of money. You don't. So I think the key for most people is like, how do you learn more than anybody else does? How do I do more sales calls than anybody else does? How do I do more? Because the more I do, the better I get.
I see. Okay, then I see your principles here, much more about the volume side and much more about doing that to get better. Then I guess how does that look like in terms of a transition from the setter to closer model? Because a lot of people, or even over here, Patrick P, he asked like, okay, how do I go from a setter to a closer transition? Do you have any advice for those people like that?
I think the biggest thing, you just got to want it. Setter to closer is simple. If you have a KPI as a setter that you need to book 5 sets a day, book 5 sets a day and then ask your manager, if I book 5 sets a day, the rest of them, can I put it on my own diary? I'll give you an example. Like my original setter from day one, That's
a good model.
Yeah. It's really easy to make money. Making money isn't hard. So my setter, for example, his name was Kevin Pham, okay? Phenomenal guy. I love him to death. He was my main setter. He was my first setter. I had sold him into a program and then he ended up working with me, okay? Him and I, back to back, when I made my first 100K a month, he was my setter and he was making about 20 grand a month as a setter. And then he reached a threshold where he was like, now I want to be a closer. So setter to closer is an easy transition.
Which scenario specifically was he a setter for?
Oh, he just set for me. He did all my triages. He managed my entire diary. Every appointment.
You're talking about at the most recent company or like which company before?
Any company. So for my last like 2 or 3 offers I was on.
You were bringing with you.
Oh, fuck yeah. It was me and Ken. We were Harold and Kumar. He went everywhere.
Oh, that's funny.
Right? So
Nice.
Kev was there from like day one when I was literally making $3,000 a month. And so Kev became a closer eventually, and he was making 20 grand a month as a setter, but it's because he had the hunger. If you're a setter and you want to be a closer, hit your KPI, and then with the free time, do closing. Same thing you would tell a 9 to 5 guy, do your 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9.
Yeah, close on the side. Dude, I love that. That's such a good strat. Okay. Another one here. I think these are more for people that are, I guess, less intelligent or not less intelligent, but less in terms less in terms of like,
this is how you know he's a marketer. He says it for what it is.
Not for sure. Less in terms of being more, I would say, expressive and being more of like an extrovert. This person says how to gain respect on a sales call when you're talking to an A-type personality.
2 things: the questions you ask and your tonality.
Explain further.
So if I start talking to you right now, and then if I start slowing my pacing down a bit, I use my facial expressions. It's different than if I start talking really fast and I speed up my facing and I'm speaking to you like this. My eyes are open, my eyebrows are looking up. The way you change the way you're perceived on a sales call is the questions you ask, the context of how you ask those questions, and then your tone. So most people don't understand how to use their tone effectively. Why do I talk faster? Why do I talk slower? Most people don't understand what questions they're asking and how to ask them. Questions you ask in a sales call and the tonality of how you present yourself is what makes the difference. You can be fat, you can be skinny, you can be anything you want, you can sell a lot. But you got to know the questions you're asking and how you're asking them. And if you understand that, you can sell anything to anyone.
So what questions would you ask, like more tactically, to a type A versus like a type B?
Give me a situation. So give me an example of an account you're managing where they get an objection. I'll show you how to do it, or how I.
I think a typical scenario where I see like a type A issue is more when you're starting to ask the questions at the beginning and they don't want to be asked.
Let's say I'm selling you business coaching. Let's pretend you run a business, okay? And you have a big ego. You're making 50 grand a month, and you're like, oh, dude, I'm already crushing it. I'm making X amount. Go for it.
For sure. I would say something like, or you ask me some questions. You say you ask me some questions.
Hey, how can I help you?
And I go like, yeah, bro, sounds good. I don't know. I'm not too interested, you know?
Congrats. So why are we on the call? You have that much free time.
Yeah, I'm just not interested.
You have that much free time?
I'm just not interested. Yeah, bye. Bye.
Just
click off. Exactly. No, but I get your point, bro. I use that strat too, right? When you just like set them up much more like, I guess, intimidating them. And that helps out a lot. Are we still in roleplay?
That was a terrible roleplay, Tim. You have a good roleplay.
I'm not the greatest at roleplay, bro.
Okay,
you run the other side.
I get it. All good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. I get it.
Yeah. No, but like, give me, I would say, like the explanation of what you kind of did there.
I don't think that's a good explanation. So, okay, I'll give you one example, right? And this is probably something you can use even. So what I often did, I used to sell on a business coaching offer for a guy, his name was Vince Del Monte, right? And I sold a few of his sales. I sold for Ryan Serhant, and they sold like to more ego-driven people. And so one of the things people hop on the call by saying is, hey, dude, I'm already making like 50 grand or I'm making $1 million. I'm crushing it, right? And so I'm a big believer in pattern interrupts. So I don't think you need to fight with people, but you got to pattern interrupt people. It's much more effective to interrupt somebody's pattern than it is to call them out. So one thing I would do.
So true.
If somebody came into a call being like, hey, dude, I'm making $1 million, I'd be like, $1 million a month, dude. That's amazing. And they'd be like, no, $1 million a year. I'd be like, oh,
I know that one.
A year. Okay, fair enough. We all start somewhere, and then I'd continue in the conversation. Right? So you can interrupt somebody's pattern really quickly. So I'll give you an example. I used to do this on my marketing team back at my previous company where they'd be like, but Yosh, the cost per acquisition is really low. And I was like, oh, you mean the ascension is really high? No, the cost per acquisition is low. Oh, and then I'd continue moving. You can use pattern interrupts in any part of your conversation. And so in sales, when you're pattern interrupting somebody, you're constantly interrupting their pattern from a belief or something that's limiting. You can change the way they perceive the conversation. So I'm a big believer in interrupt patterns. Same thing with marketing, interrupt.
Absolutely. And like the first principle underneath that is the fact that you're pattern interrupting them with something that makes where you're assuming that they're of lower status. And you're like, oh, I thought you were doing better. But then it's like, putting them down more so. In like a good way, of course, which gets them to reveal.
A better way to look at
what's
it.
Good.
I don't think that's a good way to look at it. The better way to look at it for most salespeople is this. When you work with somebody that comes in with a big ego, they're not coming in with a big ego because they want to have a big ego. It's because there's a persona there. So there's a concept I teach, which is like 6 human needs. Okay, and the 6 human needs concept is this. I learned it from Tony Robbins. It's really good for marketing, but it helped my sales ability big time. Which is
yes, I use that too in copy, 100%.
Yeah. So 6 human needs are this. And the needs are this: significance, uncertainty, certainty, love, connection, contribution, and growth. Now we all have these 6 human needs. The only difference is we value them differently. So Tim values significance and let's say love and connection. I value growth and contribution, as an example. Right? We all have different needs. When somebody comes in to a call and they have an ego, They're fulfilling a need. That need might be certainty, it might be significance. They're fulfilling a need. No, everybody, human being, will do whatever it takes to achieve their needs. Even if that means killing somebody, I'll do whatever it takes to hit my need. Right? So for me, I'll give you an example. I closed I think it was like a 200K deal yesterday. And I remember we were in objection handling, blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the guy runs a good company. He does like 12 million a year. And so in objection handling, one of the questions, because I had my closer on the other call, he was like listening while I did it. And he was like, how do you not get frustrated? I'm like, because I haven't helped him in hitting his need. It's not that he's purposely doing this or he's dumb. He runs a $10 million a year company. He's fucking intelligent. But he hasn't hit his need because my job was to get him to hit his need. And when I finally hit that fucking need, then it was different. And his need, for example, was he had been in business for so long, making 10 million a year, that he needed uncertainty in his life, but he didn't like that, but he knew he needed it. And it was getting over that hump. People will
What do you mean precisely need?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. If I take somebody, let's say there's a couple, okay? The man is certainty driven. He wants to feel certain. And then the woman is uncertainty driven. Is that relationship going to probably work out? Probably not, because one wants to jump out of an airplane half the time, one wants to stay at home and Netflix and chill. So people do whatever it takes to hit their needs, which means this owner makes 10 million a year and everybody on the outside is like, fuck man, you're doing great. So think about it. He has the significance. He has the certainty. He's been in business for 10 years. He's growing, not growing as much as he'd like. He's contributing. He has love and connection. He has a great family. We all have 6 needs, but if we don't hit one of them, we're going to want it. So there's a part of him that wants to grow a ton, but there's a part of him that wants to feel certain. What fucks people up in business and what makes you a better sales guy is when you can get people to hit their needs. There are 3 levels to sales and influence, the way I see them. Number 1 is you get people to buy shit. So you influence them to buy. Number 2, and this is, if people learn this in high ticket, I guarantee you your LTV, you'll make much more commission, you'll grow any business. And so when I influence somebody to buy and follow through. But the 3rd level of influence, which is everything, is I can get you to buy shit and follow through, but I can get you to achieve fulfillment in that area because the motive of why you started was the point. And so I think for most people, it's like that call, for example, yesterday or any call, if somebody's not achieving their needs, that's why they're not buying. And it doesn't mean their needs are always productive. If he kept valuing certainty, motherfucker would have never took action. He'd be in the same $10 million a year business, which is good, but it's not hitting his need. He needed uncertainty because he needed growth. So the key of why it took an hour of objection handling was getting him to realize to grow. Is it uncertainty or certainty? It's uncertainty. So what's riskier? Growing and achieving uncertainty or not growing and nothing happens and you don't meet your need?
So what you're saying is you're having him understand that he has a need that he's not having hit right now. And therefore, when you ask him the questions to get him to understand that, and then his ego breaks, then the sale goes through is what you're saying.
Here's what I'll explain to you as well. And this is, I won't say this person's name just for privacy reasons, but this person, for example, told me something.
Wait, just want to make sure that was like roughly what you said, right?
And I'll add on to that.
Sure.
He ended up seeing another woman and he's married.
Is this a marriage offer?
What? No, it's not.
Is this a marriage offer?
Unfortunately not, right? His need was uncertainty.
Okay.
So if I don't hit uncertainty in my business, fuck it, I'll hit uncertainty somewhere else. People do whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like he had a desire. So then what's the point with that?
The point is this. People do whatever it takes to hit their needs with you or without you. And so if you're going to be a really good sales guy, you're going to run a really good business. The key becomes when you can get people to hit their need. So then it no longer goes from how do I objection handle to get them to buy. It's how do I get this person to hit a need? Because if I get them to hit a need, then I change the way they not only join the program, but they fucking follow through. The biggest issue in high-ticket coaching is nobody fucking goes through the shit they buy. That's why high-ticket coaching companies are known to be around in 2 years, but leave a year later, right? I mean, I built a business, right? From 5 million, I was in that company from 5 million. We did 45 million a year in turnover. I was managing the whole company at one point, and our net margins were not where they needed to be. It's because we didn't get people to go through shit. Anybody can sell something. Can you get them to fucking follow through and actually achieve it and become a raving fan, if you will, or whatever you want to call it? Can you actually help them in achieving that? The first person who ever did this, I think, successfully was the one funnel away challenge that Brunson did, where he got people so bought in that people not only bought it, but they went fucking through it. He made more money in that than he ever made before.
No, fair enough. Okay, I see what you're saying. But yeah, the need part makes sense. Okay, how about this? You know what I'm curious about? What were the offers that you went through during your journey where you're going from like starting in the fitness offer, then to the next one, that's the next one, that's the next one. And I would say like from each one, is there like a way that you could kind of group them in areas and like what you learned, like the lessons that you learned at each area?
So there were a certain amount of offers I was on that didn't have a UVP. I heard the term UVP, right? Unique value proposition, what makes your product or service really good. I heard that thrown around. Most companies that died or that didn't do well that I was on, or even that I saw, it's because they didn't have good UVP. A unique value proposition isn't just something you think about for an hour and you're like, I think that's my UVP. It's something you got to think, dude. You got to fucking think about that shit nonstop. And your UVP has to change as the market changes. UVP a year ago without AI is completely different than it is today. Because today,
right. For clarification purposes, UVP is unique value proposition.
Yeah. So what actually makes you different? What makes you different is not your fucking name or not your methodology. What makes you different is, right, it's something. You got to figure out what your
process.
Exactly. Is it the fact that you get the result quicker than anybody? You get it easier for the consumer than anybody? You have less perceived value of risk? You make it way easier? You go from an online event to an in-person event? What do you actually do that it actually makes you different? And so most companies that I work with and most high-ticket companies don't actually have a UVP. That's the reason you don't grow. That's the reason your margins are shit. That's the reason why your marketing somehow doesn't work. It's because you don't have a UVP. And I think great marketers, any great marketer I've ever worked with or that I've done well with on an account, I have a marketer I work with named Charlie. He spends about $6 million a month in ads. Amazing marketer. It's because like the first thing him and I did on every account is what's the UVP, dude? What is ultimately what makes this account different than anybody else? Because that UVP is how I brand you. It's how I market you. It's what's in the fucking sales scripts. It's in the pre-call confirmation. That's your fucking UVP.
That's a fair point. Okay, so then that was like one big lesson that you learned throughout the different offers. What about like I would say, chronological progression of the offers that you went through? Do you have like sort of a story to that, or not really?
Define that more for me. Give me an example.
Okay, so for instance, I'm just curious about like which offers that you went to, right? And then what you learned at each one.
So I'll give you one example. I was on an offer called yieldfarming.com. Okay, it was a crypto offer. Yieldfarming.com probably within 3 to 4 months.
I've heard of that one.
It got to like 1.5 million a month, record-breaking numbers. Okay. So I learned a few things on that offer I'll share with you. Number one, you scale too quickly, you fuck up. Most companies scale.
I see what you're saying. So like when you're going through that closer experience, you could see how the companies are working. And then from that, you learn business based on like, okay, the founder did well here, founder didn't.
Whenever I saw something dumb happen or like it didn't make sense, I was like, why? How the fuck did we go from 1.5 million a month? Cost of acquisition was X and then fucking tanked. How does that work?
Right.
So like most companies just scale too quickly because it's so accessible. This is my perspective. I'll tell you the biggest thing I've learned from any business account I've been on. I love patience, but I like targeted patience. I think most people scale too quickly because of impatience and because they're trying to, it's so accessible to get dopamine hits, whether it's Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, YouTube. It's so easy to get what you want in terms of being able to spend money and get that dopamine hit that nobody spends time in actually building a real business and fixing shit. And so like most people scale their marketing too quickly. Most people get setters and closers way too quick in their business. So nobody actually wants to usually do what's hard. They want to outsource as much as they can. And there's a time and place to do it. But most people don't maximize. So most accounts I was on, the biggest thing I learned is if you scale too quickly and your ROAS is going down, which is your return on ad spend, don't keep doing that. If you go from a 1 to 8 ROAS to a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 4, don't let it become an ego thing where it's like, I just
Why do you think that happened? Why do you think that happened with yield farming?
No, yield farming is an example. Yield farming was a bit different. Yield farming, the guy was like worth $500 million. So he was like, fuck it, I don't want coaching sales anymore. But I'm saying in general, a principle behind every account was like people spent too much money. So their net margins were shit. Most coaching businesses don't make a lot of money.
Spent too much money.
Too much
so
money.
Their net margins were shit. I see what you're saying. Okay.
The costs were too much. Payroll was too much. It was over leveraged. It was over leveraged out of impatience. Because I want to grow a big business to do that.
Right. They're just spending money on like a ROAS that's dropping instead of cracking a new angle.
If your need is significance and you run an influencer coaching business, which chances are you are driven by significance to some degree, shape, or form, your whole need is significance. So if I told you you would get to $2 million a month, but you'd have to spend $1 million in ads, that's a terrible fucking business. But you'll still do it to hit your need of significance. That's why the 6 needs, and that's why I do believe everything is sales, and you need to understand your needs because most people in the coaching space are driven by significance. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing if it makes you unintelligent.
It's actually pretty interesting. Like, I guess the way you operate, or I guess like the pattern that I'm seeing as well, you focus a lot on like the first principles, which is very good. I guess from that, what are some other first principles that you saw throughout that sales journey of going to all these different offers? What are some principles across, I would say, business scaling, sales scaling, even like marketing? Tell me about it.
I think, so I'll give you an example. If you're a sales rep, a principle is you got to know your marketing better than anybody else does. As a salesperson, you know your marketing better than most marketers. Like, I knew more about the marketing and lead sources of my companies than the marketers did. I knew more about what the people actually cared about. Like, I just did, bro. And because I did that, I knew how to operate.
Why? Why do you need to know the marketing more than the marketers?
So this is an example I'll give to people. If I told you today, you get no more leads. You have to pay for every one of your leads, which outside of high ticket is very common in insurance or any of these more traditional selling paths. You have to do that.
That's such a good fucking framing.
Yeah, so if I told you had to pay for every lead, do you know what lead source you're buying? I know exactly what the fuck I'd buy on every account I was on. I know whether I want DM leads, if I want VSL leads, if I want webinar leads. I know exactly what I'm buying. So to give you context, like on every dollar the company spent for me, right, back at my previous company, every dollar they spent in ad spend for me, I had an 8x return. So the company on average spent 60 to 80 grand a month in ads for me, and I collected 6 to 800,000 a month every month cash collected. That's new cash. That's not reoccurring or upsells. That's just new cash alone. So I could tell you which lead source was the most effective, and I track that shit. Because if there was a day where I had to buy my own leads, I know which one I'm buying. That's something as a sales guy. If you know what your best lead source is, double down.
Dude, this is so good for like managing closers because, there's some offers I manage closers on. We have really good information. Just tell them. Okay, so then
and can I'm
curious about this.
And you can
go for it.
Do you track it yourself? For every closer, which closer is more productive on which lead source or that lead source? Which setter has a higher pickup rate on this lead source via that lead source?
I don't think as much.
So between you and I, most people don't, but this is what I mean. I want to grow a big business. I want to scale up my ad spend. I want to build a big business. Mm-hmm. But I don't even fucking know my own sales team's numbers in terms of that. I have 3 closers and 1 converts better on this lead source, so I should probably give them more of those leads.
Converting on lead sources. It's pretty interesting.
There are closers that are better at outbound. Okay, if I take a door-to-door sales guy, I put him on outbound, he'll probably convert a lot higher than a medical device sales guy, for example. Because door-to-door is more snappy. Medical device is a lot more professional, more in person. So there's different levels of understanding. And this is, there's one thing that you can add this in the thing, but there's one thing that annoyed me the other day. I was consulting with a company, very successful, right? With like 18 million a year turnover, amazing margin, incredible. And like, I'm being brought in to help their sales operations. And one of the things I was speaking to the manager about, he's like, I feel like sales management is like professional babysitting. And I was like, that's fucking stupid. Because that means you're really bad at managing your team, dude. Because even though the margins are good, the sales team is struggling, and whose fault is that? When you can get to a level of depth where you understand the sales guys you're working with, and this is why if you're good at sales, you're good at marketing, you're unstoppable. If you can understand that, you can optimize the team because you know exactly what everybody needs to do. Not only in terms of they need to close. What's the lead source? What's the script? What's the energy? If I understand the energy this person has to be with, deal with this lead source, I build my commission plans, my incentive plans, my culture, everything is built on.
100%. So then what would you say were your best lead sources? And just like, give me a gist. You got 2 different drinks. Nice. What were the different lead sources though? You just chase it down with the energy drink. Nice. What were the different lead sources that are there? And like, which ones are the most fit for which type of person?
That's depending on the closer. So my 2 best lead sources were 2. I was really good at DM leads, and that's another thing. If I track my DM leads, I better be tracking Facebook, Instagram, every social media platform differently because every platform has a different type of consumer and mindset. My conversion on Facebook leads was far better than any other lead source. Okay, so Facebook Facebook is more of a quality platform. Facebook is for an older generation. So older generation, more money. I was selling to salespeople. Logically makes total sense, right? And then low ticket was really good. So I had a really good conversion on low ticket leads, meaning like leads that were buying a $27 like SLO product, which was called the Black Book Bundle. And then we were able to scale that up. When that started going into cold market, then it got tougher, but then I just got better at selling. So I always tell people 2 things as a sales guy. You either get better at your skills, which is usually always going to be the question, or you get better at marketing, which means you'll get better at how do I get the better leads. You have one of 2 options. You got to choose.
Okay, but hold on. Let's stay on this topic here. So why did the DM leads and the low tickets perform better for you?
Part of it was the nurture sequence, right? So like I just understood those sequences better. I went through every funnel and every ad myself. I went through the Facebook account. I was like, how are they DMing? Okay, I get why I convert those higher. I went through the SLOs if I purchased it. I'm like, okay, this is the copy. This is what it's being positioned at. This is what the messaging is. That's fucking bullshit. It's framed like it's a free coaching call. Okay, no issue. This is how I'm going to frame it. I had to create that. And that's how I built my sales script. That's how I built the pre-call confirmation. Everything was custom. I had 5 different pre-call confirmation sequences for 5 different lead sources. Everything was custom. Everything had a level of depth and intention because I knew that the pre-call resources for a Facebook group lead that's far more nurtured is different than a cold market lead.
Interesting. Were you like the manager, or I would say, did you make those before you were like told to do that, or you just made it on your own volition?
Yes.
And I guess that's the insight right there for the closers that are watching this, for the sellers that are watching this. You got to do that shit to, I guess, become the best.
Here's how you make money in sales. This is just my opinion, okay? Because I built a very good income and good wealth strategy. Like if you learn how to make a lot of money in sales and you have a decent financial advisor, which I was fortunate to have a really good one. There is no way to get rid of you. I got good enough at sales where all my SOPs became the company's SOPs. That's how I built that company. That's how I built the culture.
What was the transition that you made from like previously? Because you were on like different offers before and you weren't, I would say like, did you make those SOPs even back then?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I did it. I ended up giving it to, I was just like, fucking, you guys can have it. What do I care?
Right, exactly. But then when did you make that shift? Or like you realized that, okay, I gotta make my own shit, I guess.
You mean start my own business or become a manager? Which one?
No, start making SOPs for yourself.
I just knew I always wanted it. I knew I always needed it. So like for a long time in my career, I never shared my SOPs. Like good luck getting a sales call recording for me. People still ask me, do you have any sales call recordings? I'm like, no, I don't. I actually genuinely don't. But like I never gave any of my shit away. I was very selfish because I was driven by significance and certainty back then. And back then it was about how does Yosh make the most money possible? And then I got to a point in my career where I was like, I still remember it. I think I had X amount in the bank and I was like, I think I need more friends besides just, I need more people I can share this, kind of fulfillment with. And so then I started sharing my SOPs. I shared my sales calls recording. So then I started giving them to people. I always knew I needed that shit though. I need to create SOPs on how I'm going to run my business. This is my business. I'm a sales guy, but it's my business. But those SOPs then became everything else. And then I started building upon them, making them better and better and better and better.
Fair enough. Okay. Then let's shoot back, I would say, towards more the big business that you ran, $40 million. You don't care if I say it, right? It's
what?
Fine.
No.
Can I say it or no?
Business. It's funnier.
Okay, fair enough. The big business that you ran, where they taught sales and you're doing sales for that company, I would say, what did you learn there? Or I would say, like, what was the main principles that you learned there? Because you kind of talked about principles that you learned across more of the offers previously, but what would you say were the principles specifically from that larger company that you learned?
So I'll rattle them off, but I think there are like 6 or 7 main ones. Number one, if you're good at sales, you're irreplaceable. Nobody can fire you. Nobody. If you're really fucking good at sales, you can be the biggest dick in the world. You shouldn't, but you can be and you'll still get. So number one, be as good at sales as you fucking can. Be the best sales guy. Marketers can get replaced, unfortunately, right? We can find different people. But I'll give you an example. Like if a marketer that understands sales and marketing, he'll never get replaced because like he knows things that other people don't. A marketer usually can't look at a sales call recording and be like, I can see what's up. A guy who knows, a CRO who knows usually sales and marketing can look at that and be like, I know what's fucked up. So
yeah, that's why I learned both as well. 100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. What's the next one?
Is be really fucking good at sales. Number 2 is more cliche, but it's a quote from Tony that I love, which is compete with what you're capable of, not with what you have. I started in that company when I was like 16. Within 4 years, I became a multimillionaire. I had equity in the company. I fucking did well, dude. I don't say that arrogantly. This is not hyperbole or false modesty. I was in a position by 19 where I retired and I built a 8-figure over investment portfolio for myself just by getting good at sales and being smart with my money. So you never know what you're capable of, man. You just don't. And so for most people, it's like, if you're capable to make 100, just go make 100. Don't worry about why my mind's, just fucking do it. Because it's easier to have a 6-pack and still be depressed than it is to be fat and depressed.
So is the concept there, just to crystallize it more, is the concept there, just do it so you realize that you're capable of, and therefore that will allow you to
hunger
become.
Most people don't have hunger. When most people say, I've got a decent product, and it could be great, but they don't have it because they don't have hunger. Most marketers don't have the hunger to fix marketing. Most salespeople don't have the hunger. When all these sales training programs come out there promising you offer placement on 14 calls a day inbound, your dumbass goes and buys that bullshit because you don't have the fucking hunger to actually do good shit.
Yeah, there's like fundamental laziness there with the offer.
Fundamentally. That's the issue with high-ticket coaching, right? In this industry, it's not regulated. You can go sell a shitty coaching program and get away with it and make $2 million. It's fucking absurd.
Sure.
But that's also what gives you the opportunity to build something really good.
So I think because everyone's fucking lazy. Okay, fair enough. Then what's the next one you're going to say?
Third one is grow a profitable business, not a big business. So I went through all of our years worth of like revenue, right? Margins and metrics every year in that business when I ended up taking over, because I looked at all the taxes and accounting and I was like, okay, how do I fix this? I don't want to go bankrupt. And so the key was you need to build a profitable business, not a big business. Cole Gordon is amazing at this. Full credit to him. He's probably one of the best owners in the high ticket space. Hands down, I will say Cole Gordon is by far one of the best people at building a very profitable business. I give him full credit for this, right? Even though he was competition at one point. Dude, most people scale too quickly and they hire too much. So most people either have too much payrolls, they have too many people they've hired. Some of the first things I do, when I work with companies, because most of the companies I consult with that on like a deeper level usually do about 8 to 10 million turnover. First thing I do is usually fire 10% of people. First thing. Because usually you have two people doing one person's job. And I remember being in a position where I had $1 million worth of payroll every month. And I remember looking at all the roles and the positions and I'm like, this is stupid. And so the point is, if you scale too quick, unprofitably, you do not run a good business. If you make $3 million a month and you spend $2 million in ads, total costs, right? And your net is $1 million, you don't run a good business. You shouldn't be in that business.
So people do that in this space because of ego.
It's so stupid, man. People have such good businesses. But fuck me, it's not even patience. I don't think patience is the right word. It's just significance and ego of wanting to build a big business and say, I have 100 employees.
How would you go about fixing that then? If your fundamental desire is tied to the business of significance?
I'll say this to you and I'll say it as calmly as I can. Stop giving two shits what people think. Whether you're a closer, whether you're a sales guy, whether you're a fucking owner, stop caring.
I see.
People care too much what people think.
Shifting the mind. 100%.
I don't care what people think, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons I'm happy. I could give a fuck less whether on this podcast 5 people say what a dickhead. I'd be fine. Right? You'll never see me post my revenue numbers ever. I didn't need to tell people we were on an 8-figure run rate, but most people don't know. I don't care because I don't need to say that because I don't want people to work with me because of that.
Yeah, it's about the person.
It's about the person. And so I think for most, this is one, I'll tell you one thing, and I think this will probably help you even, but just most people in general. Okay, I've spent time around some pretty successful people, wealthy people, high net worth, whatever you want to call it. I can count on one finger the only person I ever met through my career in my last company that I ever looked at and said, dude, you're fuck you successful. Not even in terms of income, but life. And that was Dan Martell. Dan Martell is the only human being I've ever fucking met. And I've met some very successful people in high ticket and outside of high ticket. He was one of the very few people I met when I had dinner with him. And I was like, you're actually rich. Not only because you have a great business, but you have a great family. You have a great health. You have achieved success, dude. And I think most people in high ticket, they don't achieve success. They achieve ego. And that's why they can't retire.
That's such a good saying, bro. They don't achieve success, they achieve ego.
If you can't retire, most people that run a $20 to $30 million a year company, you'd be surprised how many of them can't retire. And they can't retire because they were just dumb. And so when I met Dan, I remember when I left that dinner with Dan, I didn't talk much. I just listened to Dan the whole time. But I remember leaving that dinner and being like, I want to be a version of you, dude, because you have nothing to prove. And there was something at that dinner, I'm with my founder at that time. And my founder's trying to ego check him. It's kind of awkward, but Dan just didn't give a shit, man. He was just happy. And I looked at that. I was like, that's success. That's who I want to be. I don't want to be this other version. I want to be that version. And so I think for most people, that's the dude.
Dude, quick question. Is Dan in, because you guys are in Scottsdale, right? Dan's also in Scottsdale?
No, Dan's not in Scottsdale. I don't think so. Dan travels quite a bit.
You guys flew in, or he flew in, or you guys flew out?
We were at an event in LA. And so Dan ended up coming for dinner. So we had dinner with him. And he was
fun.
He was cool, man. He was that's one thing I think I had the opportunity. I had a lot of good opportunities to go to these dinners and be around, because and that's another thing, when you're really good at sales, you get bigger opportunities. I spent time around people that were very successful. And I was able to see the patterns and the principles of what was money success, what was true success, what was happiness success, what was like actual success that was like people sustain. Because I met guys that had a lot of fucking money, dude, but they're doing drugs every day, cheating on their spouse. And then I also met guys that made really good money, but they were fucking happy. And I was like, I want to be that. And then when I talk about the UVP, right? If I talk about the UVP, unique value proposition, why don't most companies come up with the UVP? It's because they haven't put thought.
I'm going to tie it back to that.
Right? It doesn't matter to them. But if they actually put thought and they found a way to make a really good product, which takes time, which means you make less money in the short term.
Right. Dude, I'm curious about, okay? So there's the concept of happiness, but a lot of people, I think this was from Hormozy specifically. He's like, even I think Tate as well. He's like, I don't look for happiness. I think there's a concept like men aren't supposed to be happy. They're supposed to focus on, instead of happiness, the pursuit of greatness, which often comes at the cost of happiness because there's a desire that isn't being fulfilled. What do you think about that?
I think when people don't hit their needs, they're unhappy. So I don't believe in the statement of men shouldn't be happy or women shouldn't be happy. I think that's bullcrap. Robin Williams had everything the world could ever want, committed suicide. I don't want to live. I'll tell you one thing money has done for me, okay? Because I don't try to deny that I don't have money, but I don't try to act like I'm worth 100 mil. The one thing money has done for me is like, I'm not happier because I have money. I have more convenience, there's no doubt. I'm not happier because I have money, but I'll tell you one thing I do have. Success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is giving what you got. Making money is ultimately not what's going to make you happy, but if you know what your needs are and those needs hit them, you'll be happy. So for most people, the two things you got to focus on is how do I progress and how do I give? If you can make a shit ton of progress and you can give a lot, you're going to be a lot happier. And so for me, next year, as an example, I want to donate $2 million to charity. There's a foundation I'm invested in that I really want to donate a lot of money to. I only donated probably like 30% of that this year. All right. So I want to donate like 3x it. I was like, I really want to do that because when I contribute to that, I feel fulfilled. I feel very good about myself.
Good for you.
So that's an example of something that matters to me. Now, again, because I'm not driven by significance, I don't need to post about it. I don't need anybody's attention on it. But for most people, the way you're going to be happy is by progressing and by giving. I think ultimately. So I don't think the goal should be don't be happy. Be happy. But how you get that happiness at 20 is different than at 40. That's the difference.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so then rerouting it back, what would you say the next principle is in terms of what you learned at the larger company?
Your ego is not your amigo. I won't talk too much about that one because I think that kind of clarifies it. Your ego is not your amigo. And that goes back to the concept of build a profitable business, not a big business, right? So your ego is not your amigo. There are many different decisions you have to make when you run a business, even as a sales guy. Do I objection handle or do I just give up because the guy's being a bitch? Do I fire this person or do I hire this person? Is this a management issue or is this a leadership issue? You never let your ego get involved. Every time I've let my ego get involved, I've always done worse. But anytime I've not let my ego get involved, I've done better.
Right. So that's slightly different in terms of not just having your ego in company growth or removing your ego in decision making as well, like the smaller tactical areas.
I don't have an ego. Most people say, oh, I don't have an ego because I just want to win. It's like, I don't have an ego, bro, because I just want to be a better human being. It's not even about winning. Like my assistant, Elle, for example, probably the most valuable employee in my business just for me as a leader. Because anytime I'm stressed or I'm frustrated, man, Elle jumps in. She's been up since 2 a.m. working with me on this project we're finishing for a company. So the point is, never have an ego. My assistant Elle is by far one of the most valuable employees to my company.
Sure. How does that play into ego though?
Well, because somebody has an ego of I can't learn from my assistant. Somebody has an ego of I have to make this decision, and even though I fucked up as a leader, but dude, he should have understood it. I have an ego that because I'm a really good sales guy, fuck the VP of marketing.
I see what you're saying. Playing in terms of the relationships in the company as well. Okay. And I would say from there then, do you have any more principles or do you want to talk more so? Or do you have any more principles that you kind of come to mind? Or if not, then I want to move on to the next thing.
Lead by example. I think that's a big one. That's something that I've implemented in my career. There's nothing that's above me in a company or when I do my work. Nothing. So there were points in my last company where I would have 10 dudes living with me in a little studio because that's what we had to do. KPI and hit numbers. I didn't give a fuck. Imagine 10 dudes sleeping on the floor. If you're the leader, dude, and if you want to make money or you want to lead a team, nothing is above you. You got to be prepared to do anything. If that means you're up first thing in the morning and you're the one setting
100%. Tell me more about that. What do you mean you guys were, so was the sales team all sleeping in one room?
So I'll explain to you what happened. My founder had a lot of chats with me about giving back and leading a team because he thought I was a leader. I was like, fuck that. I won't be a leader. I'm making $100,000 a month. I'm 17 years old, bro. I got more money than I just lost.
Going from that closer now to the sales manager role.
Right? I lost 80 pounds. I'm making $100,000 a month. I'm on track to be a multi-fucking millionaire. I'm good, dude.
Hell yeah. Did you, how fat were you? At your very blunt question. But no. Hey, I say that because I used to be 252 as well.
Get out of here. You were.
Yeah, 252 pounds. So I could say that,
Yeah, you can.
What about you?
Fat people can say it. Okay. I was at 230, 240 at a 45% body fat percentage.
Wow.
That's big, dude.
Both me and you.
Yeah, it's big.
Wait, can you share me a picture? Share your screen real quick. Do you have anything?
I think I've got something on my phone. I'm sure I do. I've got funny videos.
Let me get you one as well.
So this is this fat boy bonding right now. This is how fat people bond.
Listen, we're not fat anymore. That identity's gone, but it just gets me curious.
Oh, dude, I'm still a fat boy on the inside. I just have to keep it in check.
What?
Oh, 100%, dude.
You really think that that's so interesting. Holy shit, dog. How much do you weigh now?
I am 170 right now.
Nice. I'm exactly 172. That's crazy. How tall are you?
5'10".
Dude, I'm 5. I'm 5'10" too. 5'10", 5'9.5". I'll show you the same build. Yeah, right here. It's me and my mom.
Man, I think you would have sold a lot more if you look like that, Vias now. I'll say that much. I will say this one thing. I sold a lot more.
What do you mean?
I'm not joking.
Really?
I sold
Why do you think fat people sell more?
Because I don't feel threatened by a fat fuck. I feel threatened by somebody that's in shape that looks good. Do you know how unthreatening a fat person is? Do you know how unthreatening I look?
So you're able to get into the psychological element when you're fatter.
You're just more relatable. If a fit person hops on with a fat person,
because they feel less threatened?
Yes.
I see what you're saying. You're able to slip into I believe this guy. He's not gonna fuck me.
You and I popped up bank accounts. People popped up bank accounts, and somebody clearly has more money than you. You're gonna feel a little bit insecure. So if you hop on a call and somebody's fucking shredded, there's a sense of you that if you're not. But if somebody's fat, it's oh, what's up, dude?
Interesting. A lot of people get more jacked, or a lot of the best salespeople get more jacked. I get the point, though. I get the point. I don't think it helps in other areas of life.
Yeah.
But if you could just have the build and take it off, like have a fat suit and put it back on,
I would do that
that
all
would make
day.
sense.
If I could be fat nonstop, I would do it. If it wasn't for the effects of it, just you as a person, I'd be fat all day. Being fat.
Bro, that's so funny. That's so funny.
But okay. I'll tell you what happened. I remember I went to a live event with my founder. He had done a speaking engagement, and so this is an interesting story. Some woman walked up to me and she was like, "Do you remember me? You sold me into this program." I was like, "Oh, no idea," because I was doing. Yeah.
Wait, just real quick, like, what is the story about again?
So this is about why did I like the story about how people were living in the leadership, people were living in the fucking okay.
Yep, 10 guys in a room.
Don't describe it like that. But the way it worked
That's what it sounds like.
We were at a live event, and some woman walked up to me and was like, "You sold me," and I was like, "Oh, I don't remember," because I was doing fucking 400 to 500 sales calls a month. I don't remember anybody I sold. Right? I was selling 80 to 100 units a month at 16 grand. I have no idea. And she was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, you changed my life. I'm like making a lot more money now. I'm like, I was a month away from bankruptcy, right?" So it was this thing. And originally, I never get emotional. I'm not a very emotional guy, right? Just in general, it's just not who I am. But I teared up a bit. It was like this, she was like, I was able to put my son through college, and I told her like a year ago. I didn't even fucking remember, and I didn't tear up in front of her, but I teared up a little bit. Like 2 tears came down, and I was just like, maybe what I do does matter. And maybe like helping people and like really going above and beyond. Because even like Kevin Pham, right? He was my setter. Like he ended up getting engaged, and I was so happy for him. So that's when I started getting in more into the mindset aspect of life. And I've trained with people like Andy Elliott. I've paid all of them for consulting. And so like it's the common theme I'm starting to see, which is like you got to give, you got to do, like investing more into people will always make you happier. And so then I made a decision. I went to my founder. I was like, I'm going to help people. And so, dude, like when I stepped up as a leadership, I'll tell you 2 things about being a really good sales guy. The top sales guy. This is usually only the top guy can do this. There's an unspoken and a spoken leader. When you're the top sales guy and you lead by example, you're an unspoken leader. I had more influence and leverage over that company than anybody did because I was an unspoken leader, because I led by example. And leading by example is 100. And this is something I learned from Andy Elliott, which is you got to fucking give more than anybody else gives as a leader. All right, so I stepped into action. I flew people out internationally across every country you can possibly imagine into our Scottsdale headquarters. I spent my own money. I flew them from Italy, from Australia, any country you can imagine. I've flown people in. Right? One, it was hard to convince them to move for even a few months, because then I had to convince their partners and their spouses. Then I had to move them all here, and many of them didn't have too much money. So I was spending about 500 to. It was insane. I was spending about $100 a night. Dinners. People didn't have a place to stay. I'm like, fuck it, just stay in my apartment. We'll get you an air mattress. We'll fucking do this shit. You'll do there.
Right, that's how it got to. Oh, interesting.
Right? So then I had people living. And so if you can imagine, the culture was great though. 20 fucking guys were all day. We're going out for dinner, and like, give an example. I spent probably, I did my taxes on this. So like one of the years I spent 150 grand in company expenses. I never got reimbursed for any of it. Right. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. So I was like, Andres told me earlier, you didn't get fucking even reimbursed for it. Oh my God. Yeah,
so I never got reimbursed for the 150, but that included traveling, that included paying for people's dinners. Every night, you go to a dinner with 20 guys, you're looking at a $500 bill, right? Like a basic restaurant. So I did that every day. I was never more fulfilled, never happier than I'd been in that moment. And it was fucking hard because I had to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. I was off to bed by 10 or 11 p.m. I had to take the team to the gym every day. I had to pay for but I led by example, and I grew so much as a human being in that moment. And I had so much influence to you that if I wanted the sales team to quit, they quit. The next month when I had quit my company and I had left, the next month the revenue went down by 35%. 3 million down to 2 million. I don't say that.
How many sales guys left?
20.
Along with you, 20 guys left.
Yeah. Over the course of 45 days, yeah.
Wow, that's nuts. How many were there total?
At one point, and I don't think this was smart, but at one point I had recruited and built about a 100-person team. We had about 40 closers, 45, 50 setters, and then about 10 to 15 DM setters. So those were the departments.
Interesting. Was that necessary, you think?
Unnecessary. It's because we had overhired. You got to remember one thing, dude. So imagine this. I get put as the VP of revenue / a CEO position, right? The CEO, the interim CEO is what he called him when he took over. He didn't know jack shit about the business. He just knew that counted. So if I asked him, what should we do here? He's like, I thought you would tell me, Yosh. What budget cuts should we do? He didn't know shit. And so if you can imagine, I'm sitting in the office. This is like 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm sitting with the founder and the CFO, who's now the CEO. And they look at me and they go, hey, dude, we need you to figure this out. We have less than X amount in the bank. We might go bankrupt. Like, you got to figure this out. And so at that point, we had already overhired, so I didn't have a choice. I was like, we're going to find a way to make this shit work. And January was probably the most important month of my life, where if we hadn't hit KPI, we would have had to go out of business. And so I remember hitting KPI on the 30th or the 31st of January. And like, I remember that walk back home of like laying down and being like, I can breathe. And like that, I've never probably been more prouder of myself because I ran that motherfucker. And that's when I say it's like, you get good at sales, dude. Being good at sales and learning this other shit that you and I are talking about right now, marketing and leadership, when you get good at sales and you start believing the shit you tell people about framing, about congruency, about living a really good life, when you start believing the shit you sell people on, that's when life changes. Because now it goes from an act and a persona and a script to who the fuck you are.
Sure, 100%. But I guess transitioning from that to the numbers back there, because I just want to get that clear. You guys are like almost 3 mil, 2 mil in overhead that January 2025.
No, the companies, when you combine all the resources, it was a very expensive business, dude. Like multiple 7 figures a month in everything. It was a very expensive business, dude. And that's what I mean.
The
like,
revenue, dude, that's crazy. So you got to hit like 3 mil that month.
Just to have a decent margin. That's not even to make a lot of money. And if I look at that,
do you mind if I ask what margin was?
No, yeah, don't ask that. You never ask that.
Okay.
Can I ask that? No, it's not the greatest question.
Listen. Some people tell me something. It's worth a try. It's worth a try.
That's the closer side of you. It never hurts to ask.
Fair enough, though, man. So I would say from that company now, and great principles you had there, right? Just to recap, I would say being irreplaceable is a huge thing. If you're just good, you become irreplaceable, right? The elements of leadership that you talked about, competing with what you're capable of in terms of, I would say, I think that one's more like a quantum model that you're talking about, right? Being like admitting that you're capable by just doing it, like don't think, do it, and then now like you become capable. That was the at least idea that I got from that. And then also,
I'll re-clarify that in your mind real quick because it'll make more sense. When do you think you'll die, Tim? Give or take. When do you think you'll die?
Dude, I want to do like 90 at least.
When do you plan on having kids and getting married? Give or take.
Let's say 35.
Great. You have a decent idea of those things. I do as well. The one thing you and I can't say about each other is what we're capable of. I don't know if Tim can maybe does some fucking exit, becomes a multi-billionaire. You don't know if I can become a multi-billionaire and make the impact and vision. If you would have told me fucking 5 years ago I'd be donating $600, $500, $2 million to charity, I think you're absurd. No fucking way. So the one answer none of us know is what we're capable of. We all know when we'll maybe die, have kids. We all have an idea. What we're capable of is up to us. So that concept is, what are you capable of? And to figure that out, you just got to fucking do.
I see what you're saying.
Fucking jump. You don't negotiate with yourself. This action needs to get done. Elon Musk has that good video where he's like, I don't need a source of strength. That's not how I look at things. This is something that's important to get done, and so we should either get it done or, die trying. Fuck that, we're going to get it done. He has a video that he thinks about that.
Right, like the thoughts in your mind don't come across, okay, I'm either capable of this or not. It's just that you do it. And then afterwards, that's when you, I guess, see your capacity. Or like, I guess at that point, you don't even see a capacity, right? Because then you just keep going. Interesting. Okay. And then also, I guess, the last things that I got here was a lot about ego, where you put that away and then you retain that yourself, or you retain your fundamental needs, the 6 human desires that you talked about from Robbins, where if you, I would say, gain those in other areas, then you don't have that, I guess, emotional, egotistical side of you facading your decisions in business, which is a lot of great things that you learned there.
A lot, dude. I'm thinking,
really fucking good.
I've learned so much from like all those experiences. Some of them were good, some of them were painful, some of them were amazing, but I'm very happy for everything I've gone through and everything I will go through. Taught me a ton.
Ready? I got a question. So for me, my career, I would say, has been consistently entrepreneurial. I've always been, I would say, the leader of what I've done, and I've had the people under me. How would you say, is there an element of you that was frustrated when you're in any of your roles of like, okay, I'm like, because people sometimes look down, especially like in certain areas. I'm sure you've had this where like, you're like, motherfucker, I'm like so much better than these guys. But then you're like just referred to as the closer, like the setter, right? Did you ever have that experience where you're like, I just want to go off and then do my own thing? Or I guess the question really is like, what took so long to like start your own thing and then be your own brand, be your own face when you're like this fucking cracked?
I never cared what people thought. So I didn't really care about having my own thing for a long time. I didn't care. I couldn't settle. So I'll answer that in two ways. I couldn't settle to be good. I wanted to be great. I'm so confident in my selling ability today and my ability to market that I can take any brand and figure shit out because I'm that confident. So for me, I've understood that to do something incredible, it takes time. Most people just want to move quick because their ego, because they feel like, oh, I'm ready for it. I know what I'm doing. It's like, you don't. So the first thing was I never cared about like what people thought. So I didn't care about building my own thing. Most people build their own thing, not because they need to or because they're qualified. It's because they want to. And their ego feels much better about themselves. I knew I wanted to eventually do my own thing, but I wanted to earn the fucking right. So when I did it, I was like, fuck you, dude, I can do this. Any of my B2B, like, so we have a B2B side of the impact team, right? That makes the most money that I don't advertise whatsoever. In those companies, part of my UVP of what I do in terms of irresistible offer, what do you want to call it, is I double people's revenue or I refund them all their money. So I charge anywhere from 50 to 150 grand to work with me. And if I don't triple or double your revenue, I refund every penny. I've had a churn of about 2.5% across dozens. And so I spent time to get really good and competent. I spent 4 or 5 years behind the scenes, never posting any content, just working. The reason I left and the reason it took so long was I got to a threshold where I was like, enough, I need to go build something bigger. Because I got to a point where I wasn't becoming a better person by staying where I was. And so the decision I made wasn't, I want to go make more money. I've never said this publicly, but like when I left my previous company, I was ready to retire. Like I spoke to my financial advisor. He's like, you can be done. It's fine. Like I can take care of you. You don't have to work. Like, don't get me wrong. You can't fly private, but you can fly first class.
Weren't you be so bored at 20?
Well, so I spoke to my friend Peter, right? Peter's in his 30s. He's one of my best friends in the world. And I told him, I was like, hey, dude, I think I'm done. Like, just fucking go chill out, like buy some property. I think I'm good. And he's like, yeah, good luck. Call me after a week. And I think when I went to London, so as soon as I left, I went to Australia, I went to London, and I started putting thought. And what kind of hit me, and as cliche as it sounds, was like, I don't want to have kids in the future and tell them that this was my story, that your dad made a lot of money from 15 to 20, had all this money, and then he just quit and he relied on passive income. That seems like a boring thing. And so that's really what caused it, dude. It reached a threshold, and then the threshold went to complacency for 4 weeks of just chilling. And then I was like, there has to be something more to life than this. And then I was like, why don't I do something that actually benefits people? And so like even the B2C side of the impact team, which is how you know me, some of the shit we give away is free, but most of that shit's better than 99% of trainings out there. It's whatever I can do.
Just to clarify that there, so essentially the point that you're making was the core origin for you, and this is exactly like how I go about thinking as well. The core origin for you was, I want to get better, and with these companies that I'm at, like I am improving. Therefore, there's no need for me to go to another place, start my own thing, become my own person. Or I would say start my own thing because it won't make me better. Like I already am improving where I'm at. And then you realize in the positions that you were in that ultimately like I'm not, or that I need to start my own thing now to get to the point where I can.
My ultimate
improve
focus
and get better.
With any client I take on board, any project I start is, by the end of this, do I become a better person? Do I become more intelligent in business? Do I become a more ethical person? If by working with you, I become less ethical, I become less intelligent, I become worse. So as an example, the last company I'd left it, I got offered a contract to come back. Very large contract for a lot of fucking money. And I remember my girlfriend at that time called me and she was like, what are you thinking? I'm like, fuck no. There's no amount of money you could pay me to go back. Because it didn't make me a better person. And so I think the focus for most people
You're
is
talking about the main one? They told you to come back?
Yeah, I got opportunities.
Oh, really? But I thought you left. Who told you to come back? Didn't you have beef with Jeremy?
I don't know who you're talking about. But I had an opportunity to come back. I was sent a very private email saying you could come back and this could be potentially your contract, which was close to 7 figures, and I think you should consider it. And I said no. Because, again, it didn't make me a better person. So,
I love that.
Money doesn't change you, it amplifies you. So if you don't make a better person, don't do it.
Yeah, I operate in a similar way. I think this is why I got so close, or I got to know Andres, and like we still stay close. But then I get like why you and Andres are really good friends too, because like we all have that like similar thing where it's like it's all about the getting better, not like the money. I do it because I see a lot of people with like zero mental models that are like making honestly way more money than both of us, but it's like they just can't think. You know what I mean? They don't have like
I had a guy
the proper heuristics.
I had a guy reach out to me that runs a company that does $40 million a year. He wants me to come in and do sales ops. You probably know him. I won't say his name, but you probably know him. And it was a big deal. It was a few $100,000. It was good. I'd get a lot of, the company would grow. But I told him, he's like, why don't you want to do it? And I called him on his phone. I told Andres, I was like, I don't want to. And I called him on his phone and I was like, the thought of me building a brand or making more money off you, and the thought of my kid, my future wife, looking at me and saying, did you do that? I just couldn't respect myself. And I told him, I was like, because if my mom bought from any of the companies you manage or the company you want me to scale, I'd be fucking pissed and I'd want to kill you.
Oh, was it like a shitty one? It was a shitty product.
Shitty product. And I was able to figure that out. Obviously, I had to do my research on it. So if you're a closer, the decision you got to make is not how do I make the most money? It's do I become a better person? If I work for this company, do I get more knowledge? Do I become a better human being? I might not make the most money. Tons of accounts I worked for that I didn't make more money, but fuck me, man. I learned more than most people can learn in like God knows what. I learned more by working under these accounts than 90% of the managers in most companies today, because I actually had to fucking do this shit across multiple different accounts, multiple different offers, multiple different channels of marketing, multiple different countries. I had to understand European culture and how do you sell to Europeans versus people in Australia, versus people in the UK.
Ooh.
I learned that shit. Like, you learn that, dude, you know how to fucking do it. I have 3 companies in the UK right now that I have equity in that are outside of high ticket. But I only know how to do sales ops for those companies because I had to fucking sell in the UK. I lived in the UK for 3 months out of the year. So it's like every experience will sort of help you, but like you got to want it, dude.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, so then I think we've been teasing your company on like what you're doing in terms of sales ops and whatnot till now. I want to go into that more if you want to talk about it. Can you kind of break down what exactly your company right now is? For those that don't know, like obviously I know a little bit, but like explain it, I would say more towards like a cold audience. And then what also do you do specifically in that company? What's your role?
Yeah, good question. Okay. So the impact team has a few different divisions. To simplify, there's the B2B and B2C side of the division. The B2C side is helping salespeople, right? So we give 80% of our shit for free, and we do offer placement for free, the whole 9 yards. And that's sort of our passion project. Okay, so that's where you can come in. We'll train you. We have a VIP group for $97 a month. You get 8 coaching calls. That is by far, hands down, the best product in the high ticket coaching space. And I'll say that I'll stand behind that. So that's the B2C side. The B2B side is what I manage. That's more of the private equity. So the impact team is getting into private equity. That's sort of where we started. That's what we're building. We have a few team members that are sort of into that. So we have companies we manage and scale where we either take equity or we take profit share, which is usually how we start the relationship off, and then we scale it through that. And some of these companies are in high ticket. Many of them are outside of high ticket. Okay. And so my role as a CEO is I manage all the operations. So I just have to make sure revenue numbers are hit and people are happy. That's my role, is to make sure that all of our employees are happy. And right now we have a little bit over 8 full-time employees across every aspect of it. But we have about 87 different accounts that we're actively involved in, from a recruiting, consulting, or equity or profit share.
87?
87.
Well, how is it 87? Are you talking about like consulting plus the people that you have equity in?
Either or. So consulting or equity or profit share or recruitment, different aspects for all of them.
Wait, how does it total to 87 if you don't mind me asking? Like, are you talking about like through the salespeople as well that you coach? Or is it also like what do you mean 87?
The way the impact team has grown is like salespeople will talk about us to owners. So I haven't had to do any necessarily paid marketing for all the B2B accounts. I'm just really good at sales and I'm really good at referrals. So I can just get people to give me referrals all day. So we were able to sign up about 87 accounts in the past 90 days across every element. And because we service recruitment, we do all the different aspects, we've been able to structure it that way. And I've got some really good recruiters and people on my team that help me with that, which is great.
Do you have any offers that like you can talk about that you're on right now that are like larger that you see like doing well in the high ticket info space right now?
So there's one company that I think if most coaching companies want to model, I think they should model this company. There's a company I train one of their top closers named Luca. It's called Felix and Friends. They do about $3 million a month, straight organic.
Felix and Friends?
Felix and Friends. If you search him up on YouTube, I think he has like 600,000 followers. $3 million a month, straight organic, no paid marketing. And so I train one of their top closers.
I saw this offer. This is the trading one.
Yeah, so I train their top closer, I train their top setter, and I'm working with their top closer and getting into more leadership.
I love it. Okay.
Excellent fucking offer. So that's a perfect example of an offer who did it well. Scaled organically, figured out their UVP, great fucking fulfillment, great people.
What is their UVP?
Speed. Their ability to make somebody good at trading is faster than any other trading program I've seen. They're that fucking good now.
So the principle that you're talking about is the product there.
Speed. If you have a good product, you'll last. That's one thing and that's why high ticket never lasts, man. That's why all these high ticket offers, they come in, but then they leave. It's because if you don't have your UVP in place, you're never going to grow. Your UVP is ultimate, and your UVP has to change. So this is a good example I'll give you with my last company without saying the name. We were the first sales training company in the industry to give script writing, right? We gave script writing as a thing, but then it stayed the same year after year after year after year. Then the market got bored of it.
Are you talking about the results or the actual deliverable?
The deliverables, it didn't change. The UVP didn't get better. So then we lost market share. Your UVP has to. You can't have the same UVP. You might have the same UVP over the course of 2 years, sure, but your UVP can't stay the same for 5 years. People get bored of it.
That's interesting. So you're talking about UVP principles there. Hell yeah, bro. What makes their fulfillment so good, Felix and Friends?
Just different aspects to you. They just have a really good product. They've innovated it. They've optimized it. So if you want to make a product really good, if you run like a CX team, client support, the key of getting clients better results is not innovation. It's usually optimization. So if I have a course that's 5 hours, but it can be an hour, I should make it an hour because that means the time frame is quicker. If I have 8 coaching calls a week, how do I do 2 coaching calls a week? If I send 5 emails, how do I send 1 email? The key of fulfillment is optimizing, which means less is more. Always. I have a company I work with right now. They do Amazon, and they're very legitimate. They're in Spain and Italy, and they do about 10 million a year turnover. And like all we did was fix delivery. Their upsell ratio went up by 35%. Because if you fix delivery, which means the result is quicker and it's less overwhelming, less complex, they could upsell people.
So how do you fix delivery? Because you're more like a rev guy, but what do you do to fix delivery?
I try to figure out a way, how do I make it as simple as possible? So just like in sales where I'm like, what are the issues with marketing that causes a drop off? That's what delivery is. What's the drop?
Where did you get your delivery experience?
Fucking do it at the last company because all these clients would buy the shit but never use it. And then I couldn't upsell people.
And you're qualified to do that.
Yeah.
Dude, you have really, really good skills across like a lot of different things. Because first of all, like I want to explain like how you got that skill because of the fact that you were you're qualified to teach it and optimize the system because you're a fantastic salesperson yourself. And then that skill set now transfers to consulting that you do. Wow, very good.
All right, so that's what I do. I call up all the clients.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you move forward? Like, why didn't you go through it? I thought you paid all this money. Then I had to find a way. I was like, okay, drop off, complexity. Okay, more doesn't really help consumers. Okay, what do consumers really want? What's the product research? How do I find a way to make it really good? And
Absolutely.
The best part is, if you notice what I'm doing with the impact team on the B2C side, it's the same thing.
100%.
Right. So
dude, I like the fact that you have like all the skills. You know what I mean? I think in terms of fulfillment, we're not the best. Or I would say like I'm not the best in terms of skill sets in info coaching business. That's why I focus more on the marketing and sales. But yeah, you're able to gain all the skills, which is fucking awesome. I had to be
really good at that with my last founder. So this is one thing, and you might understand this. My last founder is a genius. Best sales guy on the planet. Promise you that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that. Yeah. Doesn't mean that makes him the best teacher. So I had to constantly work with him on like, he would explain this concept to me because I'm good at sales. I understood it, but I'd be like, okay, now I know how to explain that simpler. So I'd be like, okay, do that again, but take this out, put that in. And then he got better at explaining it. So like I trained that entire team for 2 years, right? As soon as our former CEO left, I was the main trainer, but I had to find ways to make shit simpler because he was such a genius. That's why I say I'm a really good model.
I see what you're saying. Right, that synthesization, that makes sense. Also, what about this? What's your skill level on like creating operational, I would say like consistency? Because the product in terms of building that as well, a lot of that is like, I would say operations, really mastering that.
Yeah, like I'm really good at managing operations people. I'm not very good at the innovation of it. So operations, in terms of what you're talking about, that's more like, we look at software like, let's say ClickUp or Asana, or I'm very good at the internal communication, but in terms of like the tracking and the AI, and now with AI, there's so many different ways of how you can do this way more efficiently. So I have a guy on my team named Austin. Okay, Austin handles all our media content. He did like Jim Launch's content. He did my past company's content. Like he did all of that content, right? Very good at what he does. And he helps us with all our DM setting organic, because a lot of companies we work with, we scale them up organically very well, which makes two things. Paid marketing is a lot more effective, but then also their ROAS is a lot better. And part of what he's really good at is he designs all the ops for us. So any company we work with, he'll design the ops and find a way, and then I enforce kind of the ops and making sure that the internal communication happens.
Right, so your skill set is the communication ability in training the person or managing the person who does the ops.
Sure. Yeah, and then his skill set is in actually creating that beast.
Hell yeah, I like that. Okay, last question, bro. Then with everything that we talked about here today, what would you say is like the one thing that if everybody didn't even listen to the rest of the podcast that you want them to take away here today?
Make a lot of money, don't fuck people over, and do the right thing.
Hell yeah, bro. All right, cool. We'll end it there. See you guys. Peace.